Welcome to Royal Legacy, where we will explore the rich athletic history and deep family connections of BYU sports. Join us as we honor the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future of the BYU Cougars. Here's your host, Lauren McClain.
Welcome to Royal Legacy, where we dive deep into the family connections of BYU sports. Joining me today is former BYU football standout and NFL running back Jamal Willis and his wife, Leslie Willis, who is a former BYU gymnast. They have 3 kids together, Shaman, Aaliyah, and Jada. Guys, I'm so excited for you to be here with me. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
You mentioned, is this the first interview you've done together?
This is the first, right, Leslie?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So
okay. How are we feeling about that?
A little nervous.
I'm excited for
honest.
her. I'm excited for her. So.
Oh, no.
I know.
We'll see how it goes.
Because we've heard from Jamal a lot
Yep.
throughout the years. I was excited to hear from Leslie and hear your story. Let's start with, what are you guys up to these days, just in life and your career? And Jamal, we'll start with you.
Currently I'm working at BYU. I'm the assistant director over student wellness, and I've done that. I've been a principal for high schools, in the Canyon School District. I train athletes, on the side, and I'm just a grandparent now. So I watch my grandkids and play with them, and try to spend as much time with my wife. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Sounds like you guys are living the dream. Leslie, how would you say you spend most of your time these days?
Okay, so I'm a lot more boring than your mom, that's for sure. So I am just home. I'm just at home and taking care of family and the home. And even though my kids are raised, and we do have one at home while she's going to school here at BYU, but just to be around for my grandkids and be around for them and have some flexibility to do what I want when I want. And I did work for a little bit in the school system, and our home was a little crazy. And so Jamal's like, how about you just stay home? So okay. I do it, and I love it, and I'm grateful for it.
There's nothing boring about that.
It's true. People ask me, and it takes me a minute to think, but I'm always busy. And I have to think about, what am I doing that keeps me so busy? And just family stuff.
That's the best thing to keep you busy.
It's a good time.
So good.
It's good.
Jamal, what are your thoughts on the trajectory of BYU football right now? So many good things happening, a lot of changes. What are your thoughts on where it's going?
It's obviously going in the right direction, and it's amazing how the landscape of college football has changed since I've played. I mean, it is just totally different. And, I'm good friends with Kalani and just love just standing back and seeing him provide such a wonderful program and to surround himself by people that elevate the program. I talk with some of the football players over the years, and including my son when he played there, and just to see the culture of it, right? The culture for me is everything there, and Kalani has set the culture, at a high level, and the players know that they're cared for, but they still know they have to go out and play at a high level. And so for me, it's just a joy to see the culture has changed, as it's moving in the right direction.
He likes to compare himself to Lavelle Edwards. He wants to be the Polynesian Lavelle Edwards. Do you see any similarities between how they coach?
Yes. Obviously, Lavelle has more of a scowl on his face. Kalani does. He hasn't mastered that yet.
Right.
Okay, so in due time. But, I see a lot of similarities. I see, Lavelle was more of a set the vision, set the tone, and trust his coaches and players to go get it done. And Kalani has done exactly that, right? To just build out the program, set the vision, obviously hold everyone accountable to do their jobs, but I see the players are kind of self-governing themselves in how they play. And I feel like programs are successful when players kind of run the program, you know what I mean, and not necessarily waiting for the coach to motivate them. And I think Kalani has just done that, and his coaching staff has been great, and they've done a wonderful job. I'm excited for the future of BYU football.
Leslie, when you're college athletes, success most times means achieving personal goals and winning. Now that you've experienced more life, what does success look like for you now? How has it been redefined?
Success to me, I think, is finding confidence and joy in who you are and in the life that you live. I think that's where the greatest success is, because I've seen my husband, I've seen myself, I've seen my kids. They can accomplish so much in their sports. And it's so short-lived, and it's gone sometimes before you realize it's gone. And if you don't have something to back that up, something else that brings you joy, I've seen people get so depressed and so discouraged when that is gone. And it doesn't last forever for anybody. So you always have to have something to go along with it. And I think it's the confidence and the courage and all the other things that you learn through sports, the discipline that you end up carrying with you through your life experiences forever. And I think when you can leave the sport that you've loved and be able to carry on in the workplace or in your home and family and continue to keep that joy and continue to keep the success going in other areas of your life because of the discipline you learned, I think that's true success that I've seen in so many people.
I think that's incredible advice. Is that something you've really tried to teach your own kids as they've been growing up and finding their identities outside of sports?
Yes, for sure. I mean, we are far from perfect parents, but we had our moments where we were like, you got to get to practice, you got to do this, you got to eat healthy, you got to go to sleep. And we were all about sports sometimes in our lives. And we started to realize the pressure that was coming on our kids was sometimes too much to bear. And they would start to lose a little bit of confidence in who they are. So we had to rethink and retract. Like, where are we going with this? Why does this mean so much? And so we had to start validating that they are more than their sport. And so we had to start focusing on other things that they were really good at. And I think that helped them become a more all-around person as we see them be parents of their own now, that I think it's carried forth a little bit. And we were hoping for that.
Yeah.
But still, we were so far from perfect. We have regrets still, you know. We did our best, but we're
There's
trying.
no manual.
We're still trying, yep.
We're all trying to figure it out. I'm sure you guys did such an incredible job. And Jamal, from your perspective, coming from, someone who played at such a high level in college and then in the NFL, how did you approach that as a parent and how to, like your wife said, kind of have to shift your perspective when you were trying to teach your kids the things that you learned through sports as well?
Well, everything that I've learned through sports, it's more of a kind of a part of life. It's a lot of the things that we learned. Sports was such a big part, but it's really such a little part, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the life lessons I learned in sports, but I learned in life, the challenges and ups and downs. But I do agree, when it comes to just what's kids face nowadays are much different than what we faced, when I was younger. And sports really paved the way and helped me to just understand that, when things are down, pick yourself up and keep going, right? And trust in the people that surround you. With sports, you're always around a team and you kind of are moving in that same direction. It's kind of like with life, stick with people that can lead you in the right direction. If it's your family, if it's your friends, if it's church, if it's whatever. And I think that's the main thing that I see myself when it comes to sports is staying rock solid in overcoming challenges, because we're all going to face them, right? And don't give up. Don't give up, because it always gets better before you give up, or when you're thinking about giving up. So that's one of the things that we try to instill in our kids, that, keep working hard. It'll always work out right.
When you look back at how you grew up, Jamal, do you remember when you first started to develop that love of sports? Because I know you played basketball, you played baseball as well, and football. When did you start really developing that love?
At a young age. I think I was probably 6 or 7 years old, because I played all three sports throughout high school and throughout, middle school and everything. And I think it was more of my safe space with sports. Growing up in a world that was kind of, I would say, lacking hope, in an environment where you saw a lot of things, that were just negative and just kind of chaotic. Sports was my happy place. It was a place where I can go and feel valued. I can go and feel connected, obviously with coaches and friends, and I can go there and feel motivated. And I can see life in a different perspective. Like when I played sports, life was good. My inner circle was good. And, when I went outside of sports, that's when I saw all the other bad things, but sports really kept me on the straight and narrow. So when it comes to sports, it was kind of my safe haven. I wasn't a member of the church, and really I drew close to my sports and my coaches and my family and people. And that was kind of my happy place.
Leslie, what about for you? You grew up here in Utah, in American Fork, is that right?
Yeah, Highland American Fork.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did gymnastics become something that you were like, I'm pretty good at this. I think I can do this at the next level.
I don't know when that hit me. I know my mom just put me in it because I was so hyper and doing things around the house all the time and hanging from the kitchen drawers. And so she presented it to me. And I think I just loved it. And I just went from a few gyms and went to Salt Lake. And then that got a little too far after so many years. And then came here to Orem and did gymnastics at All-American. And I think I got to a point where it was so embedded in me, but by 9th grade, I was so exhausted. And I really just wanted to quit and be a cheerleader in high school. That was what I really wanted to do. I saw all my friends having fun. And I had to leave school early to get to gymnastics. So we had the 5-6 hour workouts every day. So I only did a half a day of school. And I knew I was missing out on a lot of fun, on a lot of dances because we traveled a lot. So we were gone on the weekends. And so I wanted to quit about 9th, 10th grade. And my parents really talked me into staying because they're like, we have invested so much. You're so talented. Let's just see what you can do with it. So they convinced me to stay. And I'm so grateful they did because college life was the absolute funnest for me and so rewarding and taught me so much. And I feel like I've gained, like Jamal mentioned earlier, I have gained so much in my life now as a mother and a wife that I've learned from my sport that if I had quit, I don't know if I would have had those life lessons. And I just learned to love it again. I think I took a little break and then I learned to love it again. It helps to have good coaches that keep you motivated and good family, good parents that keep you motivated, siblings that keep pushing you along, you know. And so I stuck with it, and I'm super glad I did.
We've had Gymnast Con and they talk about how they love college gymnastics because it's a team sport. Where leading up to that, it's just all the pressure's on you, everything's on you, which obviously there's still an aspect of that in college, but it becomes more of a team and a family. Is that something that kind of rejuvenated your love for gymnastics?
Yes, and there's a lot less pressure because you have that team. And when you do fall, you have 5 other girls that are going to come up that are going to have your back for you, and they usually always come through, you know. So there's a lot less pressure. Obviously, the hours are less as well in college than they were in club when people are trying to get to the Olympics. And so there's a lot more free time, and college life in general is just fun. And it's just a little bit more relaxed, and you can just kind of be you and know you have teammates to back you up and cheer you on.
Jamal, you were offered to play football by several major programs. Remind me again why BYU came on the radar and why that was your choice.
You know, wow, you know, because I had like Nebraska, and they were like a national championship team, and that was where all the running backs that go to the NFL, you know, when I was coming up, that's where you go, right? Yeah. And at first, I never wanted to come to BYU. You know, I was going to sign with Nebraska, and I would credit my dad, you know, obviously for seeing things that I didn't see as an 18-year-old when I came up here. You know, he just felt that this was a place for me, not just for a football player. He was looking at beyond football. You know, you can go up here and you can be around people that care about you, that can help you be successful outside of football, because he knew football wasn't going to last forever. Yeah. And he was kind of my direct channel to decide to come here, you know, and that's what brought me here. And, you know, the great thing is, you know, I wanted to go elsewhere before I came here. So when I came here, and obviously if I had to do it again, I would come here again, you know, because it was such a wonderful experience. And I learned more and gained so much more outside of football. Right? Football is just kind of the vehicle, and I always try to kind of pull myself away because it's just not really who I am. It's the vehicle that carried me and that opened up doors for me, right? And there was so much more. I always feel like I'm in debt to BYU because I've gained so much in life that it's almost like I'm always feel like I need to give back to BYU, you know, and how I represent BYU everywhere I go. Regardless if it's in Las Vegas or wherever, I represent the church now, and I represent BYU, you know, and it's more than just football, but football was the vehicle.
And you guys have done such an incredible job with that. You've done so many amazing things. Leslie, for you, you obviously grew up really close to BYU. Was it the obvious choice for you?
It was not. Shockingly, it was not. I did not grow up a BYU gymnastics fan. My family is big BYU fans for all the other sports, but I grew up a big Utah gymnastics fan because they won national championships all the time.
And still are.
They really are. And I did gymnastics in Salt Lake, so I became friends with the with the club and the coaches and the gymnasts at the U, and they were winning national championships. So I was recruited by them, and I thought for sure I was going to Utah. They had just won the national championship when I was being recruited, and there was no doubt I was going there. I took my recruiting trip there, and then I took a recruiting trip here as well. And the night that Greg Marsden called me from the U and needed an answer immediately, I shockingly told him I'm going to BYU. And then I just went in my room and I cried, because that was my childhood dream, was to go to the U and be a national champion again. And so I cried about it, but then I quickly got over it, and it was going to be fun. BYU felt like home to me. It's always felt like home to me because my family is big BYU fans. My dad's business was right down the street. I grew up down the street. So it felt home. It felt comfortable. It felt peaceful, and it felt like the right thing to do once I decided to come here and once I decided to be here. So it didn't take long. It didn't take long at all. And I knew the people here at BYU as well already. And so it was very comfortable for me. And now that I've made that decision, I'm super, super grateful. The friends I met are priceless. Obviously, my husband being my number one friend and eternal companion, that's all priceless to me. So it was the right thing to do. And I'm super glad I made the decision and didn't go where I thought for sure I was going to end up. So that was a good gymnastics thing. It would have been a good gymnastics ride, but a lifetime ride, BYU is definitely the environment and place for me.
Such a cool perspective. Do you guys ever together reminisce about the good old days? Or do you guys, now that you have grandkids, do you guys ever talk about remember when, do you ever do that?
We do. We do it a lot, and we'll drive. In fact, just the other day we were here in Provo, and my daughter was in the back seat, and I said, do you want to go drive by your dad and I's very first house in college when we were married? And she's like, for the 10th time, sure.
I've seen it, but let's go look at it again.
Exactly. So we love to drive them around to all of our stomping grounds and fill them in. And they've heard the stories a million times, but they're very patient and let us just keep talking.
I'm sure secretly they love that, though, even if it's the 10th time. Jamal, at the time at BYU, you weren't a member of the church like you mentioned. What was it that piqued your interest and made you kind of start asking questions and becoming curious about it?
Well, I don't think it ever was curious or asking questions. It's almost like when you're around people so much, you hear everything and you see every move and you hear what they say. And I think it was more of me just seeing something that I wasn't accustomed to growing up, the goodness of things, and how people interacted and the love that people had for each other. And that's what drew me, obviously, when I got here, I always said, no, I'm not joining the church. That's not going to happen. But when you're around it so much and you see just how life could become, right? Because we're all trying to become something. I felt that it was always a right thing to do for myself, and as, I went through the years, and obviously meeting Leslie and, our freshman year and, all that rubbing off on me and being around Lavelle Edwards and everybody. And it was just one of those things where I knew it was the right thing to do. And I wanted to be ready to do it. And it has, I could look back and I'm so grateful because we had different paths here. We both didn't want to come here, right? Yeah. And we both ended up here and, everything worked out. So yeah, it was different, but it would really just magnified my life in so many elements.
Leslie, what was going through your mind at the time were you guys dating, by the way, at that time?
Yes.
So what was going through your mind when he kind of started becoming more interested in the church?
Obviously ecstatic because I didn't think it would ever happen. It took a while. But he just always lived that life where he could have always been a member of the church. So in the back of my mind, I didn't have any doubt because he didn't ever do the drinking and those kind of things. And he almost lived the lifestyle of a member of the church. And so I knew the great guy that was in him. It was just that commitment, I think. And he was so caught up in football, and that was his big focus in life, and I supported that 100%. So I really figured it would happen. I just didn't know when. And so obviously I was a little nervous because we were dating, and obviously my goal was to marry in the temple and marry a member of the church, and I got really nervous. We did take a break in our relationship for a minute towards the end, and kind of played it out to make sure this was exactly what we wanted. But in that time of the break is when he started meeting with the missionaries. And so he didn't want me to know about it because he didn't want me to think he was doing it for me. So I really appreciated that as well, because I didn't, in the back of my mind, I was like, well, he might do it just so we can get married, but is it really going to be truthful and sincere? And so I had that doubt a little bit too, but whereas he did it without me knowing, without my help, I think he had the help of his teammates, his friends, that kind of guided him as well, which I'm super grateful to his friends and all the great influences around him, because it truly was not just me. It was just a community of all these incredible people here at BYU that took Jamal under his wing from the minute his parents dropped him off here. So I just got to be a little piece of that, and it was inspiring, and it was a good experience, and I was just ecstatic when he decided that he was going to get baptized, and my family was ecstatic. My family loved Jamal. They still love Jamal, but they knew him as a football player first before they knew him as my friend. I just called him my friend. He's just my friend.
And they're all sure.
Don't worry, he's just my friend. So they absolutely loved him from the minute they met him. And they followed him in his football career before he ever even came to my house. So you know how excited my parents and family, siblings, brothers especially were when he came to our home for the first time. And then, so they took him in under their wing even before he became a member. He would go visit my dad up the street at his job, and he would ask my dad for priesthood blessings before his games, and that was before he was even a member. So those little things, I could see the faith in him, and he was developing a relationship with my family, with his friends, with the church. And so then when it actually happened, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me to live my life with him. So,
Jamal, I read a story that Patty Edwards went with you to a Book of Mormon, your first Book of Mormon class. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And I could tell you briefly about that story. It was my freshman year, and I was enrolled in Book of Mormon, obviously. And here I had no religious affiliation, coming here. And I remember walking in the class, and it was in one of those big auditoriums with hundreds of students. And Patty was sitting up front. I did not know she was going to be there, and I didn't really know Patty well at all. She stood up in front of the class and waved her hand. It was so embarrassing. I walk in, and she's like, "Jamal, I'm right here. Come sit here. I got a seat." And, obviously she didn't need the class. She, and it lasted all semester. She was there, and front row, and I had to go sit with her. And
you felt obligated to go sit
yes,
by
it's
her.
like, and I think, I really think she felt she needed to be there, or I wouldn't be there, right? And to this day, I just look back on that in when you look at that level of care, right? Someone that is coming into this university of a different race and, not knowing anything about the church, and she provided that support. She was in class when she didn't need to be. She probably wasn't even enrolled in the class, but she was there all semester long to make sure that I felt connected and felt needed and wanted. And that was just a testament to me to pattern a little bit of my life after the care and love she had for me and where I come from. So
sounds like you were surrounded by a lot of really amazing people at the time, and including your wife here. I want to know, what was it about her when you guys were dating that you're like, I need this woman in my life?
There's, it was many things. And I always say, I remember us meeting in the Cannon Center, the old Cannon Center, where I had training table where we went and ate. And, I remember when I first met her, she was just different, obviously beautiful, but she was just different. Different from, girls that I, grew up with, and just there was something about her. And obviously when we saw each other all the time, I always tell this story that a lot of our dates seemed like it was on the getting taped in the training room, how romantic is that, right?
Yeah.
But I saw her all the time, and just to see her in being an athlete at that high level, I feel like we understood each other. We understood the rigors of sports and training and school and all that, and we just really bonded from that point on.
Leslie, what about for you? At what point did you realize Jamal was somebody that you wanted to marry and spend your life with?
Well, not too far off to when we started dating. And I don't even know when we officially started dating because I think we became friends first. And we were introduced by a friend of his, Dewey Gray, and he introduced us. And then
I had he and his wife on pretty recently as well, telling their story. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good people.
So, he introduced us, and then it just started off as friends, and we just hung out casually. But we were so busy, too, with our schooling and our sports. And so, like you said, we would just run into each other and find the time that we could. And then we just kept hitting it off. So I didn't ever really believe I would marry him, I don't think. But I never really thought that far ahead in my life either. I was just here to have fun, and I was just going day to day. And so I didn't really ever think about marriage, really, to be honest with you, and never thought who I was going to marry, when I was going to marry. Even when I was dating him, I really wasn't thinking marriage. I was just here having a good time and had a good friend to hang out with, along with other good friends, And so I think it was we dated for 3 years from our freshman year, and then we got married the summer heading into our senior year. So it was probably after a year and a half, probably, I realized, maybe I will get married one of these days, and maybe it is going to be Jamal, So it was probably about that time. I mean, I knew for sure I wanted to be with him forever, and I knew I couldn't just be friends with him forever. Yeah. So I just never really figured it out in my head. I was just go day to day.
You were young.
I was young, and I wasn't really thinking along those lines, and it just kind of happened. Though I really wanted it to happen, but I never really put that much thought into it,
It was meant to be.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
How often were you guys able to see each other compete? Because you're so busy. Jamal, how often were you able to go to her gymnastics meets?
All the time. And she probably doesn't know this. I mean, that was like the highlight of my week, you know what I mean? To really just represent her in her sport, or just, support her in her sport, and just to see someone outside of myself being a high-level athlete, and this is a person I'm dating, you know what I mean, being that it was like I was almost starstruck, you know what I mean, to see her out there competing and just living that life that we inspired to be, go to college and be a college athlete. So, I supported her all the time.
I love that. What about for you? What was it like watching Jamal play football?
Oh, it was so fun. We've always had season tickets growing up to football. I was one that never really went. My brothers always did. I choose not to until I got to college. And then I was like, I want to go, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I always had practice on Saturdays, always. And so it was a fight with me and my coaches that I got to get out of here. I got to go to a football game. So my priorities quickly changed from my sport over to support Jamal. So I would quickly hurry and get through my workout. And my coach was kind and let me go and was lenient a little bit that way. And I would book it down the street and run into the stadium and wore his jersey, and very proudly wore his jersey, and wait for him by the locker room and all the fun things. But I absolutely loved it. It was a good time. There was a lot of others cheering for him too. That was like, this is competition to get him.
It was a big deal
to keep him.
that had to have been fun for you, Jamal. What was that like, looking up in the stands and seeing Leslie with your jersey on?
Yeah, that was I enjoyed it, right? It was that connection. Honestly, if her leotards were big enough for me, I'd have wore hers as well. But it's totally fine. But
glad it didn't.
But no, it was just that connection from start to finish, and obviously, taking her to the 49ers and just everywhere else, she just kind of followed me, through this kind of football venture. But that was a special moment to see her after every game. That was the best feeling, is even though you had a good game or bad game, you had someone to talk to and to rely on.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll hear more about Jamal and Leslie's life beyond BYU. This is Royal Legacy. Want to know what drives BYU's greatest athletes? Deep Blue takes you beyond the stats and into the stories. Host Jason Shepard sits down with Cougar legends and rising stars to uncover what makes them tick. New episodes every Tuesday. Subscribe to Deep Blue wherever you get your podcasts.
And now back to Royal Legacy and your host, Lauren McClain.
Welcome back to Royal Legacy. I'm Lauren McClain, here with Jamal and Leslie Willis, two former BYU athletes. So leaving BYU in a college setting often means stepping away from a very structured season of life to something a little more unknown. Jamal, what was the transition like moving from college football into the NFL with your family?
I think it wasn't difficult, obviously, because football's football.
Yeah.
And it was almost like even easier because when you're an athlete, everything's paid for. Everything's there for you.
Yeah.
You have to be at this place, where, you're on a schedule. And even going to the NFL the same way. I mean, obviously, now you're accomplishing your dreams of making money now and providing for your family. But for me, it was more of the after the NFL. It was making that transition was very difficult, right? Because us athletes, that's what we did for so long. And when that door was closed, I found myself sitting at home going, okay, what am I going to do now, in life? And that's what really I had to get out of that rut, because we all hit that rut a little bit. And we have to get on our feet and get moving and get going on the things that are important in life. So my transition, the harder transition, was from the NFL on to regular life.
Do you remember any advice that you got at that time to help with that transition? Because I feel like every athlete has to go through that. Who am I? What am I going to do now? What or who helped you at that time to make that transition a little bit easier?
Well, I think I had numerous people. Obviously, my wife, she gave me the support that I needed, even though I wanted to still continue to play or find a way back on the field. But I think for my dad, he always just said, be grateful. Obviously, be grateful for the things that were provided for you, and use all that great stuff you did in football and put it into life now. And that was a wake-up call for me, because I feel like our identity is for so long when you play it since you're 6 years old, and that's all you kind of identify yourself. But to understand you're more than that, you know what I mean? Everything in life that you have earned is not necessarily because of football, it's because you've just followed the right path. And for me, it was more of just transitioning all that great energy and love for the sport into life. Into family, into careers, into, the gospel. It's that motivation that, I'm not done yet. I have so much more to accomplish. I have so much more good and hope to do. So that was for me when I look at, and obviously the people I was around, but, my support system really pushed me through it.
That's beautiful. Leslie, you had to go through the same thing. How did stepping away from college gymnastics impact your sense of identity, and how did it evolve into a new identity?
So that was a much easier transition for me than it was for Jamal. I think transitioning out of my sport was a really exciting time for me, actually. I think by the time I hit college, I started to hit a burnout, and I was just exhausted. I had a lot of injuries and some eating disorders in college, so it was really hard for me to keep up in college once I got there. I had injuries 2 years, broken ankle 1 year, broke an elbow the following year. Eating structures was off the third year. So trying to get back into who I was in club, it was really tough for me. And so then when I was dating Jamal, it was really easy for me to support him and follow him. And that's where my focus started to go. And then especially when we got married our senior year, my focus was more into my husband. And I knew he was going to go further than me. My career was going to end. His was going to keep going. And I just wanted to support him. And so I ended up not finishing my senior year to support him, to travel with him. And so it was way easier for me, and then to just kind of tag along with him and be his support that he needed. I'm regretful, though, that it took us 4 years to have kids. So we had gone through his professional football, just him and I, without our kids. And then just as he finished, he tried the Canadian League a little bit, played around with that. We had our son the minute we got home from there, and then we decided, let's just be parents, focus on our kids, and then he went out into the workplace. So it was much easier for me and much easier to support him. He was way more fun to watch and be a part of.
Well, for you, it sounds like it was more of a relief from all the pressure and the stress that your sport put on you, which totally and completely makes sense. And you guys, like you mentioned, raised 3 amazing kids. Your son, Shaman, followed in your footsteps, Jamal, and played football for BYU. What was it like watching your son wear the same colors and be on the same campus as you were so many years ago?
It was, I kind of found myself in the stands just kind of in awe. You're looking at, your life and where you got to, and now looking at your son playing here at BYU and wearing your number and just being able to go out on the field and play. And that was just a wonderful thing, just to see that and to see where his life took him and the challenges that, there was points where he didn't know if he was going to play football anymore, and he kept fighting and kept pushing through. And then the icing on the cake was being able to wear the jersey and go out and play and just be a part of the BYU culture of moving the work forward for BYU football. So it was just a dream come true for me as a parent.
Do your daughters play sports as well? Were they involved in sports?
Our daughter did cheer, and
Okay.
she was going to try out for BYU cheer her senior year and then tore her ACL. And so then she didn't continue cheer. And our daughter runs track and did basketball.
Okay.
And she was going to try and go to college in basketball and then had spinal fusion and couldn't keep going in her sport. So they did big-time sports in high school, but then my daughters ended up ending with injury their senior years. So.
Leslie, how did your experience as a college athlete, some of the things you've shared, the ups and the downs, help support your kids when they were going through some of these really difficult things as well?
It was interesting because there were some times I wasn't as empathetic as I should have been, and I feel guilty about that. My kids would never say, "Oh, Mom, you should be more empathetic," but I saw it for myself because I know what I had been through, and so when they would go through hard days or an injury, I'd be like, "You can do it, come on," and I'd push them maybe a little harder than I should have. So it helped a lot because it helped teach also, like we go back to what we started talking about earlier, that you are not validated by your sport. And so the many struggles that they had mentally, I could empathize a lot with that a lot better, where I didn't want them to validate themselves with this sport. I wanted them to have so much confidence in who they are as a human being and as a woman that, I don't know, I think the life lessons we learned with discipline, with exercise, with, everyday responsibilities, I feel like that I was just able to help them see things a little bit better. But they're just so good anyway on their own. I can't take credit for them. They just seem to figure life out, that they learned a lot just on their own even. I think the relationship with their Heavenly Father is such a lifesaver.
Yeah, absolutely.
That helped.
I'm sure you guys are incredible parents. Jamal, what do you hope your kids remember most about your career? Not just the stats and the accolades, but about some of the life lessons that you learned as well.
Well, I think in one of there's a few things, but the one thing is that, to inspire to be great in all that you can do. I think that's really important to me, and sports provided that platform and opened those doors. Maybe without sports, I wouldn't be at BYU, right?
Yeah.
But sports allowed me to experience what BYU and the gospel has to offer me. And when I look at the sport, and that's why I never say the sport was who I am or who I was. The sport opened doors up for me to experience things I probably would have never experienced. If I didn't play football, I probably would have never came to BYU. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have joined the church, or I wouldn't be with my wife, or wouldn't have grandkids, right? And so for me, I always strive to help them to stay hopeful and overcome any challenge. You can do it, right? Don't give up too early. Stay with it. It'll always work out. And that's through my upbringing, that it always works out if you're headed in the right direction, and just believe in yourself and believe in your Heavenly Father that He'll help you to get there.
I'm here with former BYU athletes and husband and wife, Jamal and Leslie Willis. You guys are incredible. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
This episode of Royal Legacy was produced by Christy Solomon with senior producer Terry South. Listen to Royal Legacy wherever you get your podcasts or on the BYU Radio app. Royal Legacy is a production of BYU Broadcasting.